Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road. Today, we're putting a special emphasis on traveling as we welcome back to the show Solomon Schmidt. Have you ever dreamed of visiting England, Tolkien's native land, and seeing the sites where he dreamed up Middle-earth? In this episode, you'll get to hear about your opportunity to join Solomon on an 8-day tour of places like London, Oxford, and a host of other amazing locales in the UK. Solomon Schmidt is the author of the History Bites series and host of the History Bites YouTube channel. Solomon is not only passionate about US and world history, he is also an avid fan of J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and J.K. Rowling. He has devoted thousands of hours to reading their works, studying their lives, and helping people learn more about them. Solomon's books on these authors sprang out of his passion to share their stories with others, whether you are a newcomer to their books or a dedicated fan already. You can learn all about Solomon's story by visiting historybites.com. I love me some history. That really sounds delicious. So
and tasty.
Tasty. Totally tasty. Solomon, welcome back to the Tolkien Road.
Thank you for having me, John and Greta. Great podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, so for those, some of you might remember, we actually had Solomon on the show a few years ago, and it was on a similar subject to kind of share with us a little bit about the UK tour. So the good news is that we have the UK tour lined up for the summer of 2023. So
it's right around the corner.
I know. Yeah, it's getting close. So it's time to learn about it. It's time to make sure you're educated so that you can go like sign up for this thing, because it sounds like it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be totally just crazy. So Solomon, let's talk a little bit about it. Do you want to just go ahead and introduce this and maybe say a little bit more about yourself and the idea behind this tour and what you're hoping to accomplish?
Absolutely. I read The Hobbit for the first time when I was 9. That was my first introduction to J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and J.K. Rowling, but specifically J.R.R. Tolkien. I clearly remember reading the Battle of the Five Armies chapter enthralled. I read through half the book in 2 hours and finished it and wanted more of this author. And that led me to read The Lord of the Rings. It took me a few more years to get interested in C.S. Lewis, but when I was rereading the Chronicles of Narnia to my younger sister, I thought, this is a brilliant person writing these books. And I understand I'm not the first person to come to that conclusion. And as I was reading and studying and working on research for my books on Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, I had, of course, like everyone else, heard of Harry Potter and had friends who were diehard fans. And as I began to learn bits and pieces about J.K. Rowling, I found her to be equally fascinating to Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. I loved the Harry Potter movies. I thoroughly enjoy the books. And I have been very fortunate to travel to England a few times in the past and fell in love with the place and thought I would love to give fellow Tolkien, Lewis, and Rowling fans the life-changing experience of going to the UK for the primary reason, but not the only reason, of visiting sites related to these 3 authors. Because as you, John, and you, Greta, know, these 3 authors, they lived, they wrote, and they received a lot of their inspiration in and from the UK, England and Scotland. On the small island, the greatest fantasy tales of the last 100 years, and some would argue the greatest ever, were born. And I began to put this tour together with a friend of mine who's been in the tour business for 35 years and has done international tours in many different countries. And we developed what I believe is a fantastic itinerary incorporating not just iconic sites related to the 3 authors, but the most historic and the most beautiful places in England and Scotland. What my vision was that you would get done with this tour and you would be able to come home and say to people, yes, I've been to England. I've seen Big Ben. I've seen Stonehenge. I've seen the Scottish Highlands. I've seen Edinburgh Castle. I saw the highlights, while also being able to soak in everything that the fantasy sites have to offer, because there's a lot there.
Oh yeah.
From Oxford to the other itinerary sites we have.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It strikes me. I was kind of thinking of those three authors. Like, how would you, like kind of grouping them together, and really, like, they're the kind of these three magical authors, right? Just those names together, Tolkien and Lewis, obviously of the same generation, and then Rowling has come along in the last generation of writers, and has just kind of like put herself, up here, just through the excellence of her work. And they really, like, so much of what they have to offer in their works, it's something like, it's the air of these isles, right? Of these amazing place that we kind of generally think of as the UK, England. But so much of it is like, there's so much of the air of that place that is captured in what they do. And it's part of the fascination, to be quite honest. It's part of that thing that how do you put your finger on it? How do you define it? Maybe you just got to experience it, and see it for yourself with your own eyes, and then you'll really understand it. So,
that is totally right.
Yeah.
When I was on the Jacobite steam train in Scotland, which is included in the ticket on this tour, and it goes 84 miles through the heart of the Scottish Highlands, starting in Fort William, which is a beautiful small town on a lake, whereas the people in Scotland call it the loch, though my Scottish pronunciation is not as good as it should be. Train ride starts in this Fort William and goes to Mallaig, a seaside town. And as I was riding on the train and seeing the landscape, I was seeing the Harry Potter books come alive in my head. And sure enough, when you listen to J.K. Rowling in interviews, she said, I pictured Hogwarts as a Gothic structure in the mountains by a loch in Scotland.
Wow.
And you see it, you understand, your eyes get opened.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, that's the thing, right? That there's, when we talk about this, the magical quality of these three writers, right? That they're like, you talked about it when you were, when you were describing your experience with reading C.S. Lewis to your younger sister. I could see you like, how do I even describe it? Like, and that's the thing. Like you just know it via the experience that you're experiencing something special that you almost can't quite capture in any words. You and I, Greta, have been watching this series, The Crown, on Netflix recently.
I was just thinking about
which
that,
is which is about which is about Queen Elizabeth II, the recently departed Queen Elizabeth II, and her life. And there's a lot of this in that show, and it strikes me as we watch it that so much of the magic is just the fascination. When we watched, we were really into Downton Abbey when it was a big thing several years back. Same deal, right? There's just something about something about that place that you detect a certain magic in it. And of course, these three writers that are in focus on your tour, they captured it in a way, in a transcendent way, by couching it in these fantastical terms, with Narnia, with Hogwarts, the world of Harry Potter, what do they call it, the Potterverse, and Middle Earth, right? So well, fantastic. Well, maybe we can talk a little bit about the itinerary.
Yeah.
Sounds
The
great.
pictures alone on your website are just,
well, yeah. And let me say that for everybody listening or watching. Just go to, you may be like, oh, I probably, this sounds cool, but is it something I can really do? You want to do it, right? If you're listening to this, if you're listening to the Tolkien Road podcast, that there's part of you that would really love to do this, right? And so you got to ask yourself, like, I want to do this, and I know it would be worthwhile. When am I going to do it, right? Like, when am I going to do it? So you got to be honest with yourself about that question. right? That's like, why not now? Why not this one? So go check out historybytes.com. Go check out, it says tours at the top on the menu at the top. Click that and you're going to see the UK tour that we're going to be talking about here with the itinerary here. And you're going to see one for the New Zealand tour. And we're going to talk about the New Zealand tour after this, because we know all us Tolkien people are interested in the New Zealand tour as well. But just go feast your eyes on some of the photographs Solomon has here. You don't even have to read the text, but just go feast your eyes on the photographs, and you're going to think to yourself, okay, I need to really consider this, right? So that being said, hopefully you're there by now as you're listening to this and you're looking at the historybytes.com tour-UK page. Solomon, I'm gonna kind of run through the dates here real quick, and then I'm gonna let you talk about what's going to be happening at each of those. Okay.
Sounds good.
So the dates for this tour are July 7th through 15th, 2023. So it's an 8-day tour. It's led by you, Solomon. And so the 7th and 8th, you're going to be getting into London, and you're going to see London and Stonehenge, right? Like Stonehenge would be amazing to see. We'll come back to that. I'll let Solomon come back to that. The 9th is going to be, is it Bournemouth? Is that how you pronounce that?
Very close. The way I've heard is Bournemouth.
Bournemouth. Okay. All right. So like the Bourne Identity, right? Spelled like the Bourne Identity. There you go. Bournemouth. You may not know what that is, but go take a look at the picture and you'll want to go there. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
What are you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say that, yes. It's
Yeah.
like I want to go to there.
Right. It's an I want to go to there kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
July 10th through 12th is Oxford. Again, like Oxford is a very, very, it's just an important place for English history in the first place. Like Western civilization, and then you realize that Tolkien and Lewis lived most of their adult lives in Oxford. So you definitely want to go check that out. Again, you're going to see photographs on the website. They're going to make you think like that looks like a fantasy land in and of itself. Then the 13th is in Edinburgh, Scotland. Really kind of a cool picture you've got here, which is evocative of, for me, it's not quite this, but it kind of makes me think of like maybe they got some inspiration for Edoras of the Rohirrim and the Peter Jackson films from this kind of this castle, perched upon a hill. And then July 14th, Fort William and the Jacobite steam train. You were just talking about your first experience with this. This is really the one for the Harry Potter fans, right? That would I mean, this just looks amazing again. But that's one I think particularly the Harry Potter fans would be excited about. All right, so that's the overview of the dates at the high level. Solomon, tell us more about that.
Absolutely. And there are some minor changes to the itinerary that are going to be made in the next few days. All of the sites are remaining the same. There are just some things moving around. For example, Stonehenge will now be on July 9th. So the sites themselves are not changing, but there's some minor date changes. But that being said, I will elaborate a little on what you already summarized so well. The first day, London and Stonehenge, we're not spending as much time in London as you would if you were, say, going for a full deep dive into the historical roots of the city. However, we will be seeing all the major sites that London has to offer, and in a very neat way. You'll have time to explore Parliament Square if you wish, and we will be eating lunch at a fine dining restaurant called the Ivy Tower Bridge, which is it gives you a direct view of the Tower Bridge, the famous bridge that we see in so many pictures and postcards of London. And you can also see across to the Tower of London. It's great food, beautiful view, relaxing time. We'll see Big Ben, we'll see Westminster Abbey, Buckingham Palace, Harry Potter fans will have time to go into the Harry Potter gift shop across the road from King's Cross Station, which is, of course, an iconic location from those books. They have a platform 9 3/4 set up and an enormous gift shop of anything you could want related to Harry Potter. So that
do they customize wands? That's what I want to know. Can I get my own wand there, like with my, special thread in it?
I would be shocked if you couldn't. Like, why haven't they thought?
I know. Like, that's like the one thing I think I would absolutely love. But anyway, I was
at that location in particular, I cannot say off the top of my head. There is a room and half the room is solely dedicated to wands.
Nice.
With dozens and dozens of drawers. So,
all right.
That is London. And of course, the way my staff and I have set up this tour is it starts on July 7th at 7 p.m. at your hotel, the Hyatt Heathrow. However, anyone who came on the tour is more than welcome if they wanted to see more of London or Kensington or whatever location they had on their bucket list. They could come in a few days before. In fact, we've already had a couple who have booked, and they are coming in on July 4th. They're going to see London and some other places and then start the tour itinerary on July 7th.
Okay. So you can kind of buy your own airfare, like to kind of do, like, if you want to go early or stay late or something like that, you could kind of customize it with what plane tickets you buy.
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
And airfare is not included in the ticket cost, but virtually all of your expenses once you arrive in the UK are.
Nice.
So that is London. And we go from London about a nice drive down to Bournemouth. And in all of these drives, we will be.
Hey, Solomon, I want
Yes.
to put in a quick plug real quick before we move on.
Sure.
Again, if you're not on the website, as you're listening to this and if you're not on the website, historybites.com, and looking at the tour page, you need to be there because you're going to see like the pictures of all these different places that Solomon is describing. Again, I want to make sure our listeners and our watchers are checking out the pictures you have, because to really get the full effect and to really give yourself the due consideration for whether you want to do this awesome trip, you need to see the pictures. You need to see it with your own eyes. All right. So Bournemouth.
And that's a good reminder. And for anyone who may be listening that can't get to the website right now, I'll do my best to describe it a little bit in visual terms. So July 7th and 9th, or July 7th and 8th, excuse me, are spent in London. And then that takes us to Bournemouth. And throughout the trip, we'll be traveling on a dedicated luxury coach from place to place, very comfortable travel. July 9th is spent in Bournemouth. As a lot of you Tolkien fans, I'm sure know, Bournemouth was a vacation getaway for Professor Tolkien and his wife towards the end of their life. When Professor Tolkien retired from Oxford in 1959, he sort of made a commitment to his wife that since she had given so much of her life to supporting his academic career in Oxford, he would move down to her favorite location, the Hotel Miramar. That hotel still exists today. They even have the room where Tolkien used to stay.
Wow.
It's a beautiful hotel right on the English Channel. So we'll be staying there while in Bournemouth, and also traveling to a location very close to Bournemouth called Old Harry Rocks. It is a stunning location of white chalk cliffs that go right down to the sea. There is a nice, gentle walking path through the countryside that you take there. It's not an arduous walk at all. And you look out to the sea. And we know how much the sea meant to Tolkien's mythology, to his psyche, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an important stop on the itinerary.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then the meat of the trip, the core of the trip, is in Oxford, where we spend almost 3 days. July 10th to the 12th. And in between Bournemouth and Oxford will be a stop in Stonehenge, which is between those two cities. So you'll have time to take your picture there, see the setting, see the sheep, see the mounds where the ancient kings are buried. It's an interesting sight. That goes without saying. So Oxford will be the days July 10th to the 12th. John, you already said that this is where Tolkien and Lewis spent their adult lives. So there is a lot of interesting stories and information to unpack here. And for Harry Potter fans, sites not necessarily relating to J.K. Rowling's literary inspiration, but to the creation of the movies. And certainly there's architecture that's similar to what is found in her books. So while in Oxford, we'll be visiting, among other sites, the kilns, C.S. Lewis's home, C.S. Lewis's grave, Tolkien's grave, which is quite a moving sight.
Mm-hmm.
In the couple times I've been fortunate to visit there are usually notes left at Tolkien's grave, because it's in front of this marble monument on the marble the gravestone is a flower bed.
Mm-hmm.
And fans will leave notes there. And I remember clearly finding one that read something very close to, "Dear Professor, thank you for giving me reason to live when I was lost the most. You saved my life and made it better. Rest in peace, Professor." So that's a very moving sight,
Beautiful.
very moving
Yeah.
place.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagle and Child, where of course the Inklings met for 2 decades, around there. Harry Potter filming locations include Duke Humphrey's Library, which has some fascinating history to it, besides being a Potter location. Christchurch College, same deal there, which at Christchurch, there's several Potter locations. The
Mhm.
Audley Tower staircase, the dining hall, which inspired the Great Hall of Hogwarts. When you walk into that dining hall,
Yeah.
it's like you're walking into Hogwarts. Magdalen
I can
College.
see that in the picture here. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Magdalen College, where C.S. Lewis taught, and one of the most moving places in Oxford is right near Magdalen College. It's on the grounds of Magdalen College, Addison's Walk, where C.S. Lewis had a conversation with J.R.R. Tolkien and Hugo Dyson that would change the course of his entire life, which is the only reason we have, or one of the reasons we have, the Chronicles of Narnia, Mere Christianity, the Screwtape Letters, and the walk hasn't changed. You can walk on the same, you can walk by the same trees, the same deer park where Tolkien and Lewis walked.
Man, Solomon,
Well,
you're hitting all the things. I mean, this is incredible. Like,
Yeah.
so if I can just interject there real
Sure.
quick. So to put the Tolkien spin on that, right? You mentioned Tolkien, but that is the walk that you're describing that inspired Tolkien's poem Mythopoeia, which is his account, kind of in poetic form, of that conversation. And in that conversation, of course, led to, it was a major turning point in the life of Lewis, as you were talking about, and leading to his conversion to Christianity. So yeah, a very, very important walk for Tolkien fans and Lewis fans. Are there I don't know, are there Dyson fans out? Maybe there are Dyson fans out there too.
Let's hope not, because Dyson, as I'm sure you know, tried to censor the reading of The Lord of the Rings at the Inklings meeting. So I have
Oh no, I didn't know that.
I have none too pleasant feelings for Hugo Dyson. God rest his soul. And I mean that sincerely.
Goodness, I didn't know. I had no idea that was the case. I'll have to go look into that one.
Don't quote me on that.
No Dyson fans allowed here. No. No, I'm just kidding. Well, that's not that walk. That does sound. I mean, like I said, this is like you've thought of everything. This is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate it, John. Can't take credit for what's there, but it is there and well worth seeing. So just to wrap up Oxford, we'll also see Merton College, where Tolkien taught for many years. the Radcliffe camera, which is that famous dome-like structure that almost looks like an octopus, sort of, with the windows, the oval, the circular windows sticking out around a round dome. And throughout the time we're in Oxford, we are staying at the Randolph Hotel, which when Chelsea Clinton was going to school at Oxford, Bill Clinton stayed at. It is a wonderful location that's recently been renovated, and was also the site of a film series, a television series in Great Britain, a crime show, a mystery show. And the name of that is escaping me at the moment. It is centrally located right down the road from the Eagle and Child. It is a fantastic place to stay right in the heart of Oxford. So that is a quick summary of the Oxford part. And I will wrap it up here with a little information.
I think Greta had a question or whatever.
I don't know. It was a comment. I was just saying that, I mean, not only, we're only about halfway through the trip at this point, but not only is it incredibly like well researched and thought out, but I, for one, like, if I'm traveling, I also want to be comfortable and well fed, and this seems like you've taken care of all that too. I mean,
you're not, this isn't staying at the Motel 6.
No, this is not a backpacking trip through the UK. Like, this is like luxurious.
Yeah.
And it just seems like you've done all the hard work. Like, people just have to show up and like enjoy, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's the idea, Greta.
Yeah.
And my staff and I have done our best to make the cost affordable and reasonable based on what is offered.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in the UK, almost every meal is covered. And so that's a plus, to be sure. All your accommodations, all entrance and guides fees, and a number of other points, which you can see on the website under the ticket information section if you want a detailed list, a bullet point. But that doesn't make for very interesting podcast material.
No, no, we can let people look at that another time.
Well, and again, the big thing here is like, just do yourself, those are listening, those are watching, do yourself the favor of just heading over to historybites.com and checking it all out, because the real question is, like, you're going to see this and you're going to be like, this is worth a lot of money. Like, this kind of experience, this experience is going to be worth every penny I pay for it. Right.
No, for sure. For sure.
This is not a budget experience. If you are a Tolkien, Lewis, Rowling fan, you are going to see so much amazing stuff on this trip. It is going to be the trip of a lifetime, quite frankly.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's a fantastic way to put it. And first half of the trip, like you were saying, Greta, is in England. Second half is in Scotland. Two obviously very iconic places in the world with a lot of beauty, a lot of historic sites. And we have a relaxing drive from Oxford up to Edinburgh on July the 12th. And we'll be going, if you're looking at the map of England, on there are two main highways that go up the UK towards Edinburgh. And if you're looking at a map of England, we'll be taking the one on the left side of the map that passes near Birmingham. And there are locations along the way that are the Shire. When I was driving there, when my staff and I were mapping out this tour and doing a lot of planning for it, as we were driving along this route, I was overcome by the sense of, this is where Tolkien got it from. And there are rolling green hills and pasture lands and small stone cottages with bubbling streams. It's a fantastic drive. And so again, you'll be immersed in Tolkien even while you're on the coach driving around.
Is this the so just kind of was pulling up Google Maps as you were describing that. So is this the one on the western side of the UK, or going more through the central? So one goes through like near Birmingham and Manchester. The other one goes near Sheffield.
Yes, I don't have the same map in front of me, but it is the Birmingham one. It is the one that
Okay.
goes near Birmingham. And again, the exact name of that is escaping me at the moment.
It's like it says via M6.
M6.
That's the one.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay.
That's
Gotcha.
the one. So that takes us up to Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
For Tolkien and Lewis fans, not that they didn't travel up to Scotland. We know that Tolkien did occasionally. C.S. Lewis was not much of a traveler, and as far as we know, never spent a substantive amount of time in Scotland. However, whether or not you like J.K. Rowling, there are a host of fascinating historic sites in Edinburgh. And for J.K. Rowling fans, this is the heart. J.K. Rowling received a large amount of her inspiration for the Harry Potter series, not only from her personal experiences, but from a small radius of locations in Edinburgh,
Mm-hmm.
many of which we'll be visiting on the tour during the time we're spending in Edinburgh. Victoria Street is Diagon Alley, the Elephant House, Nicholson's Cafe, which no longer exists, but is a restaurant that you can walk into, and they have a plaque to J.K. Rowling. She wrote such and such of the books at this table here.
Yeah.
That is very,
That's very cool.
very cool.
Yeah.
George Heriot's School, which is like a replica of Hogwarts. And of course, the big event, Edinburgh Castle, which you can see from many locations in the city. There's a lot of history to soak up in the castle. And once you get to the top, you can see the landscape of the entire city stretched out before you, all the spires and the domes and the hills and the sea. It is a magnificent place.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So that is a summary of Edinburgh. And from Edinburgh, we will be driving to Fort William, which I described earlier, but just to recap, it is on a lake. It is a small town, but I do not mean that in any negative sense. It is a beautiful town with some restaurants and a lot of neat hotels. It's in the hills of Scotland, and from there, the Jacobite steam train picks you up at the station and takes you many miles deep into the heart of Scotland, through past meadows, lots of tree-covered slopes, lakes, and ultimately takes you to the sea, to the west coast of Scotland, to a town called Mallaig, where there's a lot of great restaurants, gift shops, and you'll get about an hour and a half to 2 hours in Mallaig, and then we get back on the train, take the same route back to Fort William, spend some time in Fort William. And actually, I take that back. We won't be spending, we will have already spent time at Fort William, but from Fort William, we'll be going back east to a location about midway between Fort William and Edinburgh called the Atholl Palace. Now, if any of you are looking on the website right now, or for those who are listening, I will say the website right now says a different location. We had originally planned to have a final dinner, a celebratory meal together for the tour at the Atholl Palace in Pitlochry. We changed it to a different location, but are now bringing it back to the Atholl Palace. And it is tucked away in a valley between hills in Scotland. It is surrounded by forests, so you drive down a private lane, which then opens up and you see the castle in front of you. And it is a luxury hotel where we'll be having a wonderful dinner to close out the tour, and in a dining room that is, and the Atholl Palace is a stunning location. Beautiful, moving, whatever superlative words. There, there's no need to exaggerate. It's none of this is an exaggeration. All of these places deserve the superlatives that we have been giving to them. So after the final dinner at the Atholl Palace, we have a short drive back to Edinburgh, and that's where the tour wraps up the next morning with some greetings, farewell, and that is a summary of the UK tour, the History Bites UK tour this summer.
Wow. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gosh, there's just so much beauty, so much history, so much for the Inklings fan, the Tolkien, the Lewis, the Rowling fan. Like I said before, it's just, this was, and I say this in all honesty, this looks like the trip of a lifetime.
It does.
If you fit those categories, that's and if you're listening to the Tolkien Road, then you do. So
You're stealing my line, John. The once in a lifetime.
Once in a lifetime. It sounds too, Solomon, like you and your staff have in planning this tour. You've done a really good job of balancing like actually like events and activities with just some time to wander and enjoy, which I think is really important. So I know there's typically two types of vacationers out there. There's the doers. I'm a doer. I like to do stuff and see stuff.
Stick to the itinerary.
And then we have my husband here. Not that he doesn't like to do nothing, but he likes time to relax on vacation too.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it would be a really nice balance between, like you're seeing a ton and having a lot of really cool experiences, but you also have a good amount of time just to kind of wander and soak in the scenery and relax. So kudos. Well done.
Thank you, Greta. That's what we've tried to put together. And at any point along the tour, you're free to break away for your own personal time. And if there's a stop where you say, hey, I don't want to go to XYZ location, then obviously your entrance fees will still be covered and you can still go there if you desire. But if you want to take a stroll or stay back at the hotel and do some reading or take a nap or whatever you fancy, you can. So we, like you said, Greta, we built that in.
Yeah, that's great.
Fantastic.
It's amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah, it strikes me that so because I feel like it's only a matter of time, till I don't know if it'll be this one, but I feel like it's only a matter of time till we join you, right, Solomon? Till we make this happen for ourselves. And I would think that if we were going to do this, it would be like maybe we get there a little early and then we go see Birmingham, because there's a lot of Tolkien stuff in Birmingham. Like he grew up near Birmingham, in and around Birmingham, so there's a lot of really interesting things there as well. So
sorry, that is my landline phone going off.
Oh,
you're good. You're good.
Not an alarm saying we have to stop.
They must not know you're recording this podcast right now. So shame on them. All right, whoever it is, it's probably his grandmother. So how dare I say shame on him? Anyway.
Yeah.
And by the way, that would be wonderful if you two were able to join us, and I really hope that happens.
Yeah, I do too. It truly looks like the kind of dream trip. So it's not just a temptation for us. It's kind of like a how do we make it happen, whether it's this time or on one you lead in the future, because I'm sure this will this will be happening again. Though you never know, so we got to keep that in mind too, right? Never know what the future may hold, right?
Exactly.
We all know what happened back in 2020 with COVID, shut down a lot of travel of this nature. So you never know what could happen, what could be in the future. But nevertheless, the most important thing you can do for yourself is get over to historybites.com and just take a close look at this. Solomon, anything else that you want folks to know about the trip? Just any details as far as how to make it happen, travel restrictions, anything of that nature?
Yeah. The first I would say, without trying to sound too salesman-y, is if you're going to go, book now. Spots are limited, and we have a certain amount of people that we're able to take this summer. So if you are interested, please go to the website and book. or you can reach out by email to solomon@historybites.com, which is also on the website. Like John said, excuse me, this is going to be a trip of a lifetime. My staff and I have done our best to make it a really worthwhile experience and get the bang for your buck, to use that phrase. And as far as all the nitty gritty about cancellation policy, the payment policy, it's all on the website under the registration tab. So I won't run through that right now, but I will say this. If there are restrictions that make traveling to the UK impossible, at any time you will be given a full refund. So that is for people's ease of mind.
Mhm.
And I will leave it at that, because any other detailed information can be found on the website. And I know we're limited for time today.
Yeah, no, that's great. And again, like, when you have those questions, it's all there on the website. And I know Solomon will be happy when you reach out to him. We'll be happy to, to answer those questions for you.
Mhm.
Solomon, I know the UK tour is up next, but I saw, and that was kind of the main focus of our conversation today, but you also have a 12-day tour of New Zealand listed on your website. And I would be remiss as the host of a Tolkien-themed podcast if I didn't ask you to tell us more about a little bit about this, even though it's maybe a little further out than the UK tour is right now. So, to just give us kind of a, maybe a 5-minute summary of what you've got planned for New Zealand in 2024.
Would love to. We currently have dates scheduled March 12th to the 24th. A lot of the information I've mentioned about the UK tour is the same as far as any travel restrictions. There are none as of now in New Zealand, which is a great development. And my staff and I have done some careful planning and have put together a if I can say this without sounding arrogant, a fabulous itinerary, I believe. It starts in Auckland, on the northern point of the North Island. For you or anyone who knows the geography of New Zealand, there's 2 islands, and you take a ferry between them partway through the tour. We start in Auckland on March 12th, and we end on March 24th in Queenstown, which is called the adventure capital of the world.
Oh, wow.
This tour will be themed around filming locations from The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and the Chronicles of Narnia. And as you two well know, there is a wealth of gorgeous locations and a lot of interesting and funny stories from the making of those movies. I'll give you some tour highlights. Of course, the city of Auckland, Cathedral Cove, where the Pevensey children first enter into Narnia in Prince Caspian. And I'll give a small plug here for my YouTube channel. I interviewed William Moseley, who played Peter Pevensey in the Chronicles of Narnia a while back. And as he was describing New Zealand to me, he essentially said it's everything we've always imagined and more. So that is one location, Cathedral Cove on the northern coast. Hobbiton movie set is included in your ticket cost. The Waitomo glowworm caves, which are a stunning,
Wow.
very unique natural location.
Natural, but talk about kind of something out of a fantasy
Yes.
movie.
Yes.
Yes, and this dark cave has the roof of this cave is illuminated by thousands and thousands of small blue glowworms, and it shimmers, and you take a nice gentle boat ride through it.
Wow.
Something out of Disney, but it's real.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
In real life.
Amazing.
And the other aspects of the North Island part of the trip are Tongariro National Park, where the real life Mount Doom is.
Oh, wow.
Wellington, the capital city, where Weta Workshop is located. And we have a tour of Weta Workshop included in the ticket, where you can see the behind the scenes on how this extraordinary group of people put together, I biasedly say, are the greatest films ever created.
Mhm. Mhm.
Then comes a cruise across Cook Strait,
Mm.
a beautiful waterway between the two islands. And the South Island, there's so much to say, but to give some high points, one is Mount Sunday, which is where the Edoras location was filmed, where Edoras was built.
Mhm.
And the structure itself is no longer there, but you can walk to the top of the mountain. It's an easy half-hour hike, and you are surrounded with a panoramic view of giant white peaks in the distance, just like in the movies. One of the amazing things, as I know you two know very well, and I'm sure many of your listeners do, one of the amazing things about the Lord of the Rings films is how little CGI there is. And you can go today and see these real places that Peter Jackson incorporated into the filming.
Mm.
Mount Cook and Lake Pukaki is another highlight. Mount Cook is one of the most iconic sites in New Zealand. Again, as with the UK tour, my staff and I want people to come away from this tour not only having seen the specific fantasy themed sites, but also the main sites that you would see if you were going to the country for a standard vacation.
Mhm.
Sure.
Mount Cook and Lake Pukaki, as I said a minute ago, Lake Pukaki is where Lake Town was created in the Hobbit films. Milford Sound is one of the most dramatic places on planet Earth. It's ranked as one of the 7 wonders of the world as far as natural landscapes go. It is a fjord with rising green hills above you.
Mm.
When I look at pictures of Milford Sound, the location that always comes to my mind is Valinor. If there were a Valinor on Earth, it's
Wow.
Milford Sound.
Mm.
So a cruise through Milford Sound is included in your ticket cost. And then that takes us to Queenstown. And in Queenstown, there's a number of sites, filming locations from the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, and the Chronicles of Narnia series, one of which is called Paradise. And in Paradise is the location in the Prince Caspian movie where Prince Caspian is riding on his horse away from Miraz's soldiers and he splashes through a river with his horse. That is one location.
Mm.
And other locations in the Queenstown area include where they filmed, where Isengard, where they took the real location in Queenstown and then put Isengard on top of it in post-production. The Forest of Lothlorien is another location, and Ithilien, where Faramir and his archers kidnap Frodo and Sam. And just as with the UK tour, we finish the tour with a wonderful meal together. And this tour ends at the Grill by Eichardt's, which is in Queenstown on the shores of Lake Wakatipu.
Mm.
A dramatic setting to what will be a dramatic, wonderful tour. And just like as with the UK tour, once you arrive in New Zealand, virtually all of your expenses are covered. The accommodations, many meals, all entrance and guides fees. You have an option to add on a helicopter ride to your ticket, a helicopter ride of the Southern Lakes region, which we can add on to your trip if anyone wished to do that. That is a History Bites rundown of the New Zealand tour that we have planned for March of 2024. And we are a ways away from it, but spots are limited. If you have an interest, I would encourage anyone to research more and book through the website or reach out to me at solomon@historybites.com, and my staff and I will help with any questions you may have and give any assistance we are able to offer.
Wonderful.
Well, it looks amazing. I have one question. If you can climb all the way to the top of Orthanc in Isengard, can you get a ride? Can you ride on an eagle? Right. That's what I want to know. So we'll come down and pick you up. No, this looks New Zealand itself, I've always known as an amazing. But I literally, looking at all these pictures, I had no idea that all of these landscapes were here. I knew of some of them, of course, from the films. But yeah, you're right about Milford Sound. That does look like it looks like Valinor. That's a perfect way to describe it. So that does not seem like a stretch looking at this photo by any means.
And Solomon, same deal with this trip as with the UK. You do your own airfare, right? So, or you make your own to and from travel arrangements, so you could go early or stay late or whatever.
Yes.
Okay. Very
Wow.
cool. Very cool.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So y'all, the theme of this is you just got to get yourself over to historybites.com, and at the very least, all that's going to happen is you're going to view some amazing photography, but I guarantee you that once you're there, you're going to start thinking to yourself like, okay, when am I going to do this trip? Right? When am I going to do these trips? Right? Because you're going to realize that this is some serious, like, bucket list, life-changing kind of action, right? These are things that if you love Tolkien enough to listen to a Tolkien podcast, right, on a regular basis, right, this is the kind of stuff will be one of the greatest experiences of your life. So you just take that first step, go consider it, and just reach out to Solomon with your questions, and just take that first step, and you'll never know what you're going to realize you can make happen. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well put, John. And again, to make one last point, my staff and I have done a lot of the quote unquote nitty gritty work with the idea that once you come, you can have as enjoyable a time as possible with nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
That's the idea. And
Just
it's just
show up.
everything to soak in and enjoy it as much as possible.
Yeah.
When I consider that, along with all of the different sites and the different places and the accommodations, this is a deal.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah. I'll be honest. I was kind of bracing myself because after talking about the New Zealand trip, I was like, okay, like this is like, we have to do this. And I was bracing myself for the price. And I was like, oh, that is very reasonable. I mean, for everything that's included. Yeah. I mean,
well, and that's the thing. We're not going to tell you the price right here, but go over and just check it out for yourself, right? Go over and check it out for yourself, and you're going to realize like that I can make this happen, right? I can make this happen. So how do I make it happen? Right?
And the other thing too is I've been thinking, like my mom is famous for saying, you save either time or money, right? I mean, you like think about the time it would take, like you or me, to like plan a trip like this. I mean, it would take hours and hours and hours, right? Between research and scheduling and all the things. And that's all done. It's all done. Yeah. All you have to do is get there. I'm like, oh man, it sounds just, it's just gorgeous. It looks amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Solomon, so again, I'll say it one last time, historybites.com. That's where you begin this journey, both of these journeys, perhaps. Solomon, any final words you want to, share with our listeners before we sign off?
The only other thing I'd say is you two are great, and my hat's off to you for this podcast, and the level of Tolkien knowledge you both have is amazing. And I know, John, you've written some books on Tolkien that have excellent reviews, and it's, like I said, my hat's off to you both. I really admire you for this work you do. And to all the listeners, so glad you love Tolkien. So glad you love, hopefully, Lewis and maybe J.K. Rowling as well.
Yeah. I think we make a good team, Solomon, because we sit here and we talk a lot about Tolkien, and then you take people to the places so that they can appreciate what we're saying even more.
That's right.
I mean, it's a good balance, I think. Yeah.
You two are quite a team.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
you.
And speaking of books, I need to tell you that our youngest like loves reading about history, and you've been so kind to send us your books, and he has like eaten them up. Maybe that's why you've called them history bites. I mean, he's literally like devoured them.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Let me say this too, as a plug for Solomon's books. Like our son is not, he's not the kind of kid that sits down and he's 13 years old. He's not the kind of kid that sits down and reads for a hobby. Getting him to read, he either does it for school or you have to like twist his arm to get him to do it, right?
We have to bribe him with video game time.
The History Bites books. Yeah. The History Bites books, everyone we've given him, he has just gone through and thoroughly enjoyed. If that's not a just a glowing endorsement, I don't know what is, right? Like that's and that's the truth. That's the truth. So
we've used him as like because we homeschool, and that's been part of his history curriculum. So and he hasn't complained about it one bit. Actually, the opposite. And he really enjoys it. And we always make him tell us what he's read, and he can, I mean, he's learned so much. So just well-written books, and, really enjoyable to read too.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. It's the best. It's the best feedback I could hear about the book. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Solomon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Really appreciate having you again.
It's been fun.
And would love once the trip is over for the UK, maybe we can have you back on and hear a little bit about the adventure after the fact and everything that happened. And hopefully for the sake of all of us out there, it won't be the only time you've done this trip. So you'll have more to tell us about from the experience. So
yeah,
that'd be terrific. And I look forward to it when we can do it. How do you sign off do you sign off with an Elvish phrase?
We don't normally. We normally just kind of do our own thing. So but we will, if you have one in mind, we can do that.
Yeah.
No, I am woefully behind on my Elvish skills.
We'll put that on the to-do list. There you go. Put that on the to-do list. No, so I want to just thank you, Solomon, for joining us once again, and thank you to everybody for watching and or listening. We will talk at you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.